using the FX tool in Photoshop. Okay, so in Photoshop, you'll see I've got a basic 8.5 by 11, and I have created a new layer, and I'm just going to draw some shapes. I'm going to hold Shift to constrain my squares, otherwise it can be any kind of rectangular shape. I'm going to give it a pivot. Right, it doesn't want to let me pivot it until I fill it with something. All right, let me fill it with something. I will put in a pattern, and then it should let me rotate it. Yes, good. If I hold Shift, it'll constrain it to angles. So I want a nice little diamondy, and then I'm going to create some more. You can see I'm just clicking and dragging it onto the little plus there beside the trash can. And then I've got several of these, and I can fill them all with different things. Photoshop's handing it, making things line up properly. And I can go to each one of these and fill it with something else. Here we go. And if you use the selection tool, so that's the one you select the objects, but you have the dialog box open on pattern fill, you can move things around within the pattern itself, like the pattern within the shapes. That actually works really nicely and easily. Okay, then I'm going to do another one. And make that a little smaller. Maybe angle it a little. And then finally I'll do third one and just hit OK and fill you with something else. Here we go. Okay, so you were all very familiar with the cookie, but there's other functions that are very handy down here. I'm going to create some more of these. And 2, 3. Oops. And again, I'll drag these somewhere else so you can see what I am doing. All right, get one more. Okay, so there's another section of the very handy menu down at the bottom of your layers, and that is called FX. And that is very handy because what it does is things like it'll put a stroke on a shape the way you do in Illustrator. It'll do an inner shadow, it'll do an outer shadow, it'll do a color overlay, a gradient overlay, a pattern overlay, an outer glow, and a drop shadow. Let's do a drop shadow and see what we are looking at. All right. So let's play around with my angle. And you can see as I pull and play around with it, this is what makes it larger or smaller in the drop shadow. And how soft the edges are and the size of the shadow itself. And so that's super handy. You also have, and again, it's the pull down, it's right this, it's 2 over from the cookie, it's the FX, and it can do an outer glow. Let's see what our outer glow looks like because it's a gray. I want to change my outer glow to a color so it's obvious. And then I want to make it bigger. Okay. Where did my outer glow go? I may need a more colorful background. There we go. Okay, so I was doing a different kind of blend. If you do it normal, it'll be quite a lot more obvious. There we go. There's also inner glow. Let's see what it's going to look like. Sometimes you have to play around with them and just see what is happening. Okay, yeah, it was tiny, 8 pixels. That was teeny weeny. So, um, there we go. That's the inner glow, the outer glow. There's also some. I'm gonna Control C, Control V, U, and you can add multiple built layer of styles effects to your shapes. And there we go. I think I'm going to do this on just a plain. I don't want contour. And it also will show you what's happening with your shape on the right-hand side in that little box. All right. So it's happening real time on my shape. It's also happening on the little box. And I want my bevel to be more obvious. It could be smooth or sharp. See how it's creating a diamond. It's not as obvious on my pattern, but it's definitely obvious what's happening here. Let me just create a new shape and see what we can do with that. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my pattern for the moment. And See if it'll let me fill one of my shapes because it's got the pattern happening. All right, let's do a select. See if that'll work better. There we go. Control C, Control V. Oops. All right. Well, that's my shape. Let's give it a color so I can see what we're working with. Oops. No, I want to do my shape. There we go. And try that again. Hmm, okay. Edit fill. There we go. Okay, let's see if it's clearer with black if we're playing with some of our effects. Okay. Working so well on that black background. So let's edit fill with gray and see if that's going to, yes, okay. So that's definitely showing some of the cool things that are happening in my shape. And again, so any of those effects you can apply to any shape that you have, any text, anything that is an object in Photoshop.